Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wassalatu wassalam ala Imam al-Anbiya wal Mursaleen Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa ansarihi wa azwajihi wa dhurriyyatihi ajma'in. Allahumma arina al-haqqa haqqan warzuqna ittiba'ah wa arina al-batila batilan warzuqna ijtinaba. Beloved brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to this another of our sittings. We shall be continuing with the Tafseer of Surah 29, and I think it will take two more sittings, this sitting and another sitting, to finish the Surah. We are not in any rush to finish the Tafseer because each ayah has to be explained properly. The last time we were here, we stopped at ayah 45 of Surah Al-Ankabut. In this ayah, Allah Ta'ala said, أُتْلُ مَا أُوحِيَ إِلَيْكَ مِنَ الْكِتَابِ. Recite what was revealed to you, O Muhammad, from the Kitab, the Quran. وَأَقِمِ الصَّلَاةِ, and establish your 5 prayers. إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ تَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنْكَرِ, because the salah prevents you from unlawful intercourse and munkar, wicked deeds. وَلَذِكْرُ اللَّهِ أَكْبَرُ, and the remembrance of Allah is the greatest thing. وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ مَا تَصْنَعُونَ, and Allah knows exactly what you're doing. I will be recapping a bit of what we covered yesterday in regards to this ayah. This ayah is a very important ayah of Surah Al-Ankabut. Why was the Prophet commanded by Allah to recite the Quran for the people? Because the Quran is a shifa, a cure. This shifa, it cures you spiritually and physically. You are an alim, an Islamic scholar, you are a doctor who cures the people of their spiritual ailments. If you find people with wrong aqidah, you're supposed to sort out their aqidah for them and cure them of their spiritual ailments. An alim, an Islamic scholar, is a spiritual doctor, while the surgeon, he is a physical doctor who cures you of your physical ailments. The worst ailment is the spiritual ailment. If you have diabetes, that's one ailment, and that is physical. If you have hypocrisy in your heart, that is another ailment, and that ailment is spiritual. If you come to Allah on Judgment Day with a physical ailment, diabetes, it won't cause you to go to the hellfire. But if you come to Allah on Judgment Day with a spiritual ailment, hypocrisy, like Abdullah ibn Ubay, or kufr, shirk, like Abu Lahab and Abu Jahl, then your destiny is in hellfire and you shall abide therein forever. So the worst ailment is spiritual ailment, not a physical ailment. Therefore, the person who cures you spiritually is more important than the person who cures you physically. The person who cures you spiritually is more important. His job is more important than the one who cures you physically. It is because of this reality the Prophet said, خَيْرُكُمْ مَنْ تَعَلَّمَ الْقُرْآنَ وَعَلَّمَ. The best of you are those who learn the Quran and then teach it to others. And the Prophet said, Al-ulama warathul anbiya, the scholars are the inheritors of the prophets. The scholars are the inheritors of the prophets. And for Allah Ta'ala to bless you with knowledge of the book and you leave it off to do another job, it means that you didn't appreciate the barakah of Allah. Allah bless you with knowledge and you leave it off to do another job. It means that you did not appreciate the knowledge that Allah gave you and the barakah that Allah Ta'ala has bestowed upon you. Allah Ta'ala told you to recite the Quran because it cures the people of their kufr, their shirk, their zandaka. The Quran is shifa, a cure, and it also cures you physically, because when the chief of the tribe got stung by the scorpion or a snake and he was about to die, the people came to the Sahabas and said, can anybody do ruqya, incantation? Can anybody recite the Quran to cure people? Somebody said, I will recite, and he jumped down off his camel and recited over the man. He was cured. The people said, what did you recite? What did you recite? He said, I recited over the man Surah Fatiha. And they gave the man a sheep as a gift, and he accepted it. His companions were saying, why did you accept the sheep as a gift? But when he went back to Medina, the Prophet said, you did right. You can accept gifts for reciting the Quran over people. You can accept wages. The Prophet said, you did right. You can accept wages for reciting the Quran over people. And Imam Shafi said, if you teach people how to recite the Quran properly, you can charge them money. Okay, shukran for bringing the hadith. So they came to Allah's apostle and mentioned the story to him, and he said, how do you know that Surah Fatiha is ruqya? You have done the right thing. What you have got and assigned for me, I share with you. Now, what was the share? Was it a sheep? How many sheep? How many sheep did they give? They distributed the sheep. But the one who treated with the ruqya said, do not do that till we go to Allah's apostle. They gave the man a sheep for reciting the ruqya. And the Prophet approved of collecting the sheep as a price for reciting ruqya. Now, why did Imam Shafi say that when you teach people how to recite the Quran properly, you can charge money? Because the Prophet married a woman to a man, and the man was poor, and the dowry was for him to teach her what he memorized of the Holy Quran. And when Imam Shafi passed the fatwa, no scholar was able to object to his fatwa, because he brought hujjah. If you speak with hujjah, nobody can object. People only object when you speak with no hujjah. When you give your own opinion, that's when people object. So the Rasul married a girl to a man, and the mahar was for him to teach her what he memorized of the Holy Quran. Because of this hadith found in Bukhari and Muslim, Imam Shafi said you can teach a person how to recite the Quran and charge a fee. When Imam Shafi passed the fatwa, nobody was able to object because he spoke with hujjah. And when you speak with hujjah, no one can object. People will only object when you speak with jahala, ignorance, and you give your own opinion. Then people will swoop on you because no one wants you to give your own opinion in regards to the deen, because the people have jealousy for their deen, they have ghairah for their deen, and they don't want you to corrupt their deen. And because the Muslims have ghairah for their deen, when Umar became the caliph, a man lifted up his sword and showed his sword to Umar and said, if you leave off Quran and Sunnah, I will sort you out with this sword of mine. If you leave off Quran and Sunnah, Umar, I will sort you out with this sword of mine. Now, why a Sahaba was able to lift up his sword and said to Umar, if you leave off Quran and Sunnah, I will sort you out? That's because the Sahabas had jealousy for their deen. They were protective over their deen. When a person is a munafiq, they have no ghairah for their deen. They'll even go and take their aqidah from Yusuf Qaradawi. A person who is a munafiq, the word is ghairah, jealousy. Whenever a person is a munafiq, they will take their aqidah from people like Yusuf Qaradawi. That is the sign of a munafiq. They gravitate towards the wicked scholars. They will never take their aqidah from the mujahideen, the ulama who support the mujahideen. They take their aqidah from people who believe in democracy. That's a munafiq. They gravitate towards the wicked scholars. Recite the Quran for the people, O Muhammad. This is a commandment of Allah Ta'ala to the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Because the Quran is a furqan that separates the right from the wrong, the good from the bad, the pure from the corrupt, and the truth from the false. The furqan. The Quran is a cure from the jinn. Whenever a person has jinn possession, you have to recite the Quran over the person. It is called exorcism to drive the jinn away. The Quran is hujjah. Whenever you want to debate a person, you need to use the Quran. The Quran is hujjah. Can you imagine you are debating with a Shiite? You have to use Quran. Because if you bring hadith, the Shiite is going to say the hadith is fabricated. If you bring an ayah, can he say the ayah is fabricated? Impossible. If you are debating a Parvezi, you have to use Quran. Because if you use hadith, the Parvezi will say the hadith is fabricated. Same thing with the Qadianis, you have to use Quran. So the Quran is hujjah, and because of that, the Rasul said, Ahsan hadith kitabullah. The best hadith is the book of Allah. Wa khar hadith hadith Muhammad, and the best guidance is the guidance of Muhammad. So whenever you want to debate a person successfully, you need to be firmly grounded in the knowledge of the Quran. That is the only way you will defeat a person in a debate. If you are able to use the Quran to answer your problems, then you are a real scholar. Like when Aisha was accused of having an affair, she recited an ayah from the Quran. And the ayah she recited was the same ayah that Prophet Yaqub recited. Surah 12 verse 18. Surah 12 verse 18. When Aisha was slandered, she recited Surah 12 verse 18. Bal sawwalat lakum anfusukum amran fasabrun jameel. Wallah al-musta'an ala ma tasifun. Your evil souls cause you to concoct a lie. So patience is the most beautiful thing for me right now, and I seek help in Allah to expose the lie that you fabricate. Why Aisha was able to recite this ayah, Surah 12 verse 18? Because she was a scholar. To recite the ayah, because she was a scholar. Whenever you are faced with a crisis, if you can use an ayah from the Quran to solve your problem, then you're a real scholar. When the man approached Hassan al-Basri to ask him about the fitna of Ali and Muawiyah, Hassan al-Basri quoted Baqarah 134. تِلْكَ أُمَّةٌ قَدْ خَلَتْ لَهَا مَا كَسَبَتْ وَلَكُمْ مَا كَسَبْتُمْ وَلَا تُسْأَلُنَّ أَمَّا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. That ummah has passed away, they will reap what they sow, and you will reap what you sow, and you won't be held accountable. You won't be asked about them on Judgment Day. You need to recite the Quran for the people because the Quran is a protection. This is the ayah recited by the great scholar Hassan al-Basri when people tried to indulge him with a debate with what took place with Ali and Muawiyah at the Battle of Siffin. He was able to use an ayah from Surah Baqarah to stop the argument. Tilka ummatun qad khalat. That ummah has passed away. They will reap what they sow, and you will also reap what you sow, and you won't be asked about them on Judgment Day. Allah won't ask you about the fitna of Ali and Muawiyah because you were not there. Why do you want to spend 3, 4, 5 hours discussing something that Allah won't ask you about? Why don't you talk about this is the problem of Syria? Didn't you see the video of Syrian kids being hacked to death with machete? Half their heads were chopped off. Didn't you see that on YouTube? Or maybe you're a dinosaur, you don't know what's going on in the world. You are computer savvy. Didn't you see the massacre of kids in Syria? Why don't you discuss that? Why don't you discuss Somalia? Why Why don't you talk about the occupation of Masjid al-Aqsa, the third holy mosque, and how we are going to liberate Palestine? You will never discuss that, do you? You want to discuss things that Allah won't question you about. When Muslim girls were raped in Bosnia and Kosovo, where were you? Why don't you talk about Kosovo and Bosnia? Where were you? You are like a madkhali who pay attention to things. When they give a khutbah, they talk about the trousers below the ankle. 1 hour khutbah about the trousers below the ankle. Ahmad Khalid came to Jamaica and he upset everybody because he gave a khutbah for 1 hour and it was about the trousers below the ankle. But if you ask the Ahmad Khalid to speak about fiqh al-waqi', what is happening in Kashmir, in Palestine, in Shishan, he will never speak about that. That's why he upset everybody in Jamaica. He gave a khutbah for 1 hour about the trousers below the ankle and ignore the plight of the Ummah. You are just like the Markhali. What is small, you make it big, and what is big, you make it small. What is small, you make it big. What is big, you make it small. The Quran has to be recited for the people because it is a protection. Can't you see when you go on a journey, you say, Subhanallah, sakhara lana hadha. This dua is found in Surah 43, verse 13 to 14. Subhanallah, sakhara lana hadha, wa ma kunna lahu mukrinin, wa inna ila rabbina lamunqalibun. All praise is due to Allah who has caused us to subdue this transportation. And without Allah's help, we could never have subdued this transportation. And unto Allah we shall all return. This is a dua found in the Quran, Surah Zukhruf, Surah 43, verses 13 to 14. The Quran has to be recited because it's a protection. Ayatul Kursi is a protection. It protects your property from theft. The Shaitan told Abu Hurairah, if you recite Ayatul Kursi over your property, no one can steal your property while you sleep. The Prophet said that person who told you about Ayatul Kursi, that was a Shaitan. Sadaqa wa huwa kadhub. He spoke the truth even though he's a compulsive liar. So the Prophet accepted the truth even though it came from the lips of the Shaitan. Now look at the character of the Prophet. He accepted the haqq, the truth, even though it came from the lips of the Shaitan. The Quran is soothing for the heart and mind. The Quran has to be recited because it drives away the Shaitan. The Holy Prophet said, if you recite the Quran in your home, Surah Baqarah, the Shaitan will not be able to come to your home for 3 days and 3 nights. So since the Quran drives away the Shaitan from your homes, it has to be recited. That's why Allah commanded us to recite the Quran. Recite it to the people. Recite it for your own protection and your own salvation, and recite it for the people. Because the best hadith is Kitab Allah, the Book of Allah. Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Another reason why the Quran has to be recited. The Quran is dhikr. It's a form of dhikr. And everything in the dunya is cursed except dhikr Allah, the remembrance of Allah. A scholar of Islam and a student of that scholar. Everything else in the dunya is cursed except the remembrance of Allah, a scholar of Islam and a student of that scholar. The Quran has to be recited because it increases you in taqwa. Abu Bakr Siddiq used to cry when he recited the Quran. Aisha said, O Messenger of Allah, don't choose my father to lead the salah because he cries too much. Choose somebody else. And Rasul refused the suggestion of Aisha and insisted only Abu Bakr is allowed to lead the salah in my absence, during my sickness. The reason why the Rasul insisted only Abu Bakr can lead the salah, he was grooming Abu Bakr to be the Khilafah. To be the Khalifa. He was grooming Abu Bakr to be the Khalifa. So, Surah 8, verse 2 tells you that the Quran increase you in Iman. إنما المؤمنون الذين إذا ذكر الله وجلت قلوبهم وإذا تليت عليهم آياته زادتهم إيمانا وعلى ربهم يتوكلون. The believers are only those who, when Allah is mentioned, feel a fear in their hearts, and when His verse, this Quran, are recited to them, the verses of the Quran cause them to grow in Iman. It increases them in Iman. And they put their trust in their Lord. So Allah is telling you in Surah Anfal verse 2 that the Quran causes people to grow in Iman. This is why Abu Bakr used to cry when he heard the Quran being recited. The Quran is scientific. Great scientists embrace Islam after reading the Quran, because they said not a single verse of the Quran contradicts modern day science. The most famous, Maurice Buchaley, and many other scientists. The Quran is historic. It tells you about the nations before the nation of Muhammad. The Quran is psychology. And the Quran is sociology. The greatest psychology is the Holy Quran. But you need to know the tafsir of the Quran to appreciate the Quran. Only the person who knows the tafsir of the Quran will appreciate the Quran. So because of that, Allah Ta'ala said, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ أَمْ عَلَىٰ قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالُهَا. Won't you practice tadabbur with the Quran? Won't you reflect on the Quran? Or maybe your hearts are sealed, your hearts are wrapped. Because you were commanded to reflect on the Quran. Surah 47, verse 24. Do you not ponder deeply on the Quran, or your hearts are wrapped, your hearts are sealed from understanding it? Surah 47, verse 24. So the whole purpose of reading the Quran is to ponder deeply on the Quran. Allah is telling you to ponder on the Quran, reflect, ponder, concentrate, meditate on the Quran. Or your hearts are wrapped, your hearts are sealed. You will never be able to appreciate the Quran until you understand the tafsir of the Quran. And because it is imperative for you to understand the Quran, Allah said, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ أَمْ عَلَىٰ قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالُهَا. Won't you contemplate on the Quran, or maybe your hearts are wrapped, your hearts are sealed from understanding the Holy Quran? The Quran is psychology and sociology. I told you yesterday when the brothers of Yusuf dumped him in the well with no shirt on his back. If you study psychology, the chapter is called Sibling Rivalry, in which one brother hates the other brother because one is doing better than him in school, in university. One is successful, the other one is a loser, so he hates his brother. Sibling rivalry. That story of Yusuf in the Quran, that is the greatest psychology you have in front of you. And the Quran is also criminology. When they dumped him in the well, they took his shirt back with false blood and told Yaqub, wolf ate your son, look. And they were crying. Crocodile tears. Allah said they came back Isha'an. وَجَاءُوا آبَاءُهُمْ إِشَاءً يَبْكُونَ. They came back at Isha time because the dark will hide their crocodile tears. How did Yaqub know it was a big lie? Because the shirt wasn't torn up. How can wolf eat my son and the shirt wasn't torn up? That doesn't make sense. Yaqub wasn't stupid. That is criminology in front of you. That is criminology in the Quran. Wolf ate my son and the shirt is intact? I beg your pardon, that doesn't make sense to me. And when Yusuf alayhi salam was discovered by the men in the well, they sold him for a paltry price. Allah said, وَكَانُوا فِيهِ مِنَ الزَّاهِدِينَ. They did not consider Yusuf anybody important. Because they were saying, if you were important, what are you doing in the bottom of a well with no shirt on your back? So they sold him for a miserable price, a paltry price. That is sociology in front of you right there. That some people out there, all they care about is to make a quick buck. Anyway, I don't want to digress anymore. I can pick out many more lessons. The last lesson is when Zuleika asked of him an indecent act, zina, and she tore his shirt from behind. That's called sexual harassment on the job. Sexual harassment is rife in Europe and America, but women are the victims mostly. Most of the sexual harassment is coming from men to women, not the other way around. Sexual harassment on the job. That's right. Allah is telling you about sexual harassment in the Quran. Every fitna in the world right now is in the Quran. But you need to know the Quran to appreciate the Quran. And many of you don't appreciate the Quran because you didn't take time out to study the Tafseer of the Quran. And because of that, Allah said in Surah Muhammad, verse 24, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُ الْقُرْآنَ أَمْ عَلَىٰ قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالُهَا. Won't you contemplate on the Quran, or your hearts are wrapped, your hearts are sealed? Surah Muhammad, verse 24. Won't you contemplate on the Quran, or your hearts are sealed, your hearts are wrapped? Allah said, وَلَا ذِكْرَ اللَّهِ أَكْبَرُ. To remember Allah is the greatest thing. The dhikr gives you success. Surah 8, verse 45. Spiritual success. Surah 8, verse 45. When you remember Allah, you attain spiritual success. Dhikr gives you a peace of heart. Surah 13, verse 28. Zuleika tried to rip off the shirt. Okay. All you who believe, when you meet an enemy force, take a firm stand against them and remember the name of Allah. Much do dhikr, both with your tongue and mind, so that you may be success. And the dhikr gives you a peace of heart. Surah 13, verse 28. If you don't remember Allah, you're a loser, a sure loser. When you do dhikr, you gain Allah Ta'ala's forgiveness. Those who believe in the oneness of Allah and whose hearts find rest in the remembrance of Allah, verily in the remembrance of Allah do the hearts find rest. Shukran for the ayah. Dhikr gives you a peace of heart. Dhikr causes you to gain Allah's forgiveness. When Prophet Jonah was in the belly of the whale, he made dhikr constantly in the belly of the whale until the fish in the sea, all the animals in the sea gathered around him to listen to his beautiful recitation. What did he recite in the belly of the whale? لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين. Constantly. Hundreds of times. Even the angels heard his recitation and asked Allah, who is that? Allah said, my servant Yunus in the belly of the whale. He didn't obey my orders, so he's swallowed up. The angels interceded for him and said, give him a second chance. Give him a chance. The angels interceded for him. Even the fish in the sea interceded for him and begged Allah to give him a chance. And Allah commanded the whale to spit him out. And then Allah said, if he did not do that dhikr, La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu min al-zalimin. If he did not do that dhikr, I would cause him to be in the belly of the whale until the day of judgment. So Allah told you in Surah 13, verse 35, that dhikr caused you to gain Allah's forgiveness and Allah's mercy. Allah's forgiveness and a great reward from your Lord. Surah 33, Surah Ahzab, verse 35. Everything in the dunya is cursed except dhikrullah, a scholar of Islam and a student of the scholar. In the ayah, Allah said, Wallahu ya'lam ma تصنعون. Allah Ta'ala knows exactly what you are doing. I will not recap anymore. For those of you who missed the dars yesterday, ask the admins to give you the notes. I'm not going to recap. I'm going to start explaining new ayahs. Enough of recapping. If you missed the dars, go get the notes from the admins or listen to the recording. No more recapping. We'll continue with new ayahs. Allah Ta'ala said He knows exactly what you are doing. In the last of ayah 45 of Surah Al-Ankabut, وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمْ مَا تَصْنَعُونَ. Allah said in the Quran, these trees in autumn they shed their leaves. Allah said in Surah 6 verse 59, not a single leaf falls from any tree in any part of the world except that I have full knowledge of that leaf that fell from the tree. Now think about that. There are billions of trees in the world, in rainforests all over the world. The Amazon rainforest, for example, the rainforests of Malaysia, Indonesia, the rainforests in the jungles of Africa. Allah said, not a single leaf fall from any tree in any part of the world except that I, Allah, have knowledge of that tree and that leaf that fell from that tree. Surah 6 verse 59. And Allah Ta'ala is closer to you than your jugular vein. Please send out invites to those on your pals list so that they know the dars has started. Surah 50 verse 16. Where is the ayah I quoted? Surah 6 verse 59. Okay, yes. Not a leaf falls, but He knows it. Okay, shukran. Not a single leaf falls from the tree in any part of the world except that Allah has full knowledge of that. Surah 50 verse 16, Allah is closer to you than your jugular vein, meaning His knowledge. Allah's knowledge makes Him closer to you than your jugular vein. Abu Yusuf will say, this means Allah dwells within the bodies of people. Allah possesses people. Wahdatul wujud. Do you see how the Sufis take the Quran literally? They use the ayah to support Wahdatul wujud, that Allah possesses people. And they use the ayah to say Allah is everywhere in person. Nobody takes the Quran more literally than a goofy Sufi. He takes the Quran literally to support his Zandaka. Allah Ta'ala said in ayah 46, وَلَا تُجَادِلُوا أَهْلَ الْكِتَابِ إِلَّا بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. And argue not with the Jews and the Christians, the people of the book, unless it is be a way that is better, with words and good manners, inviting them to Tawheed, except with such of them as do wrong. So those of them who do wrong, they are rebellious, don't invite them to Islam. The ones who are rebellious to the Haqq, don't invite them to Islam. Because when you invite them to Islam, you are throwing silver and gold to the swine and you are wasting your time. And they don't worth a dime. You are only allowed to invite the kafir who shows interest in the deen. The one who is rebellious, don't waste your time. You are throwing silver and gold to the swine. You are wasting your time and they don't worth a dime. You are only allowed to spend time with the kafir who shows interest in Islam. So when Allah Ta'ala said, reason with them in a way which is better, Allah is speaking about the ones who show interest in Islam. This ayah is similar to the ayah of Surah 16:5. Allah Ta'ala said, Ud'u ila sabil Rabb bil hikmah. Call to the way of your Lord with hikmah. So, what is the tafsir of the ayah, Surah 16:1-25? Ud'u ila sabil rabbik bil hikmah. 125. Surah 16, 1:5. Call to the way of your Lord with hikmah. Call to the way of your Lord with hikmah means invite the people to Tawheed. That's the tafsir. When you are in Darul Harb, you invite the people to Tawheed, and when you are in Darul Islam, you invite the people to Sharia. That is the meaning of the verse, call to the way of your Lord with hikmah. How can you call an Englishman, a Frenchman, how can you call him to Sharia to pray? Because to pray is Sharia. Allah said people who establish Sharia, they establish Salah and Zakah. How can you call people to establish Salah, which is Sharia, to pray to Allah, and they don't believe in the existence of Allah? And ask yourself that question. You with your dodgy manhaj. How can you invite the people to Sharia, which is Salah and Zakah, to pray to Allah and pay Zakah, which is Sharia, and they don't believe in the existence of Allah? Ask yourself that question. You who are calling to Sharia in Darhab, why didn't you call the people to Tawheed? That's my question to you. The other question to you is, why do you contradict the Prophet? When the Prophet ﷺ sent Mu'adh ibn Jabal to Yemen, he said to Mu'adh ibn Jabal, you'll come across people of the book, and the first thing you should invite the people to when you go to Yemen is the Tawheed of Allah. La ilaha illallah. That is the advice of the Prophet to Mu'adh ibn Jabal. So when Allah said, Ud'u ila sabil rabbik bil hikmah, it means call the people to Tawheed, call the people to Allah. When you go for dawah, don't tell the people smoking is haram, to smoke weed is haram, to bet on the national lottery is haram, gambling is haram, sex before marriage is haram, eating pork is haram, to listen to horoscope is haram. You don't give dawah like that. That's how many of you give dawah in the West. No wonder sometimes you wonder your dawah, why didn't it succeed? Did you invite to the way of Allah with hikmah? Like Allah said, Ud'u ila sabil rabbik bil hikmah. Call to the way of your Lord with hikmah. So Allah Ta'ala is telling you in Surah Al-Ankabut, verse 46, and argue not with the people of the scripture, the Jews and the Christians, unless it be in a way that is better, with good words and good manners, inviting them to monotheism with his verses. Inviting them to monotheism with his verses, except with such of them who do wrong. And say to them, we believe in that which has been revealed to us and revealed to you, our God and your God. Our God and your God is one. The one Allah, the same Allah. And to him we have submitted as Muslims. What this verse is telling you, verse 46 of Surah Al-Ankabut, is that we believe in what came down to us and what came down to the Christians. What came down to the Christians? Tawheed. When we say we believe in what came down to the Christians and the Jews, what came down to them? Tawheed. Do you want to see Tawheed in the Bible? Do you want to see Tawheed in the Bible? Okay, bring me the book Mark 12 verse 28 to 29. Mark 12 verse 28 to 29. Jesus said in Mark 12 verse 28 to 29, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. That is Tawheed. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. Matthew 19 verse 17, Jesus said to a man, Why call me good? No one is good except God. And Jesus answered him, The first of all the commandments is here, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. That is the Bible, and that is Tawheed in the Bible. Matthew 19, verse 17. And he said unto him, Why callest thou me good? There is none good but one. Tawheed in the Bible. If Jesus didn't agree for the man to call him good, how can he agree for people to call him God? You need to ask the Christians that question. And I can bring you many more verses of Tawheed in the Bible. But you need to get the link contradictions of the Bible. I don't have time to go into that. And read on your own. So when we say we believe in what came down to us and what came down in your book, we are talking about the Tawheed which is in the Bible. Because every prophet came with one message. What is the message? La ilaha illallah. And because of that, Allah said, وَلَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولًا أَنِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَاجْتَنِبُوا الطَّاغُوتَ. Surah 16, verse 36. There is not a single nation on earth except that we sent unto that nation a prophet, commanding the people to worship Allah alone and to reject the Taghut. Surah 16, 36. وَلَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولًا أَنِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَاجْتَنِبُوا الطَّاغُوتَ. There is not a single nation on earth that we sent unto that nation their own Rasul, commanding the people to worship Allah alone and to reject faith in all the false deities, the Taghut. In the ayah, it also says, Our God is Allah and your God is also Allah. What it says? Our God is Allah. وَإِلَهُنَا وَإِلَهُكُمْ وَاحِدٌ وَنَحْنُ لَهُ مُسْلِمُونَ. Our God is Allah and your God is also Allah. This ayah is telling you Muslims, Christians, and Jews believe in the same God. Did you follow? Muslims, Christians, and Jews believe in the same God. Muslims, Christians, and Jews believe in Abraham. Muslims, Christians, and Jews believe that Jerusalem is a holy city. Muslims, Christians, and Jews believe in the Ruh, the human soul. Muslims, Christians, and Jews believe in Moses. Muslims, Christians, and Jews believe in the flood of Noah. Muslims, Christians, and Jews believe in life after death. Muslims, Christians, and Jews believe in the hellfire. Muslims, Christians, and Jews believe in the same God. This ayah tells you we believe in the same God. Even the Christians of Malaysia took the government to court because they said we want to use the word Allah in the church because God doesn't do justice to our Creator. The Malaysians, the Christians in Malaysia took the government to court to allow them to say Allah in their church because the word God can be easily corrupted. You can say goddess and goddesses. So if Muslims, Christians, and Jews believe in the same God, where did they go astray? In the same God, the hellfire, heaven, the flood of Noah, the Roh. The Christians in Malaysia took the government to court because they wanted to use the word Allah in their church because God doesn't do justice. Muslims are offended when you call Allah God as well. So if Muslims, Christians, and Jews believe in the same God, where did they go astray? They went astray because they don't understand Tawheed properly. Only a Muslim understands Tawheed. Now, there are 4 Tawheeds, and the Christians went astray in regards to all 4. Let's take a look at the first Tawheed, Tawheed al-Rububiyyah. Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, so if Muslims, Christians, and Jews believe in the same God, how did the Jews and Christians go astray? That is a $1,000,000 question. How did they go astray? They went astray is because they don't understand Tawheed properly. Let's take a look at the 4 Tawheeds. Tawheed al-Rububiyyah means Allah is the only creator. The Christians went astray in regards to Tawheed al-Rububiyyah because they said when Allah said, let us make man, Allah meant Jesus, help me to make man. So Jesus helped Allah to make man. That's what Christians believe. Jesus helped Allah to make man. So they went astray in regards to Tawheed al-Rububiyyah. Because Allah is the only creator and Allah didn't allow anyone to share with Him in His creation. And Allah said to the pagan Arabs, I didn't even have any witness when I was creating my creation. How can you say that the angels are females? I didn't even have any witnesses when I was creating my creation, much less to have a helper. The other Tawheed Asma wa Sifat, the Christians went astray in regards to Tawheed Asma wa Sifat. Because they describe Allah with names and attributes that Allah did not use to describe Himself. And the Jews went astray in regards to Tawheed al-Rububiyyah as well, because they dabbled in black magic to claim that they have powers that are exclusive to Allah. وَمَا كَفَرُوا سُلَيْمَانَ وَلَكِنَّ الشَّيَاطِينَ كَفَرُوا يُعَلِّمُونَ النَّاسَ السِّحْرَ وَمَا أُنزِلَ عَلَى الْمَلَكَيْنِ بِبَابِلَ هَارُوتَ وَمَارُوتَ. Baqarah 102. Suleiman was no kafir. The Jews of Babylon, they were the kafirs, teaching their people magic and what came down to the two angels in Babylon, Harut and Marut. So how the Christians went astray in regards to Tawheed Asma wa Sifat? Because they describe Allah with names and attributes that Allah did not use to describe Himself. They said Allah beget a son. Allah is not a begetter. That's one lie. Allah beget a son. Another way they went astray in regards to Allah's names and attributes. They said Allah rested on the seventh day. That's another lie. The moment you accuse Allah of doing something that He did not do, you nullify Tawheed Asma wa Sifat. Because Tawheed Asma wa Sifat means to describe Allah with His 99 names and attributes, and to abstain from describing Allah with names and attributes that He didn't use to describe Himself. Another way the Christians went astray in regards to Tawheed Asma wa Sifat is that they claim Allah repented that He made man. Allah made Tawbah. Genesis 6 verse 6. It repented the Lord that He made man, and He was hurt in His heart. Genesis 6 verse 6. Okay, I've told you how they went astray in regards to Tawheed al-Rububiyyah. They believe Jesus participated in the creation of the heavens and the earth. Because Allah said, let us make man, which is a big lie. Allah didn't say that. Allah said, Inni ja'ilun fil ard khalifa. I am about to create a khalifa on earth. Baqarah 30. Allah didn't say, let us make man. Allah said, I am about to put on earth a khalifa. Allah doesn't need partners to help Him to create man. Then I told you how they went astray in regards to Tawheed Asma wa Sifat. Tawheed Asma wa Sifat means to describe Allah with His names and attributes, and to abstain from describing Allah with names and attributes Allah did not use to describe Himself. They went astray in regards to Tawheed Asma wa Sifat because they accuse Allah of repenting that He made man. That's a big lie. And they accuse Allah of resting on the seventh day. Genesis 2 verse 3. And they accuse Allah of begetting a son. Beget means to procreate, to have sex. How can you accuse Allah of begetting a son? That's preposterous. Okay, how did they go astray in regards to Tawheed Ibadah? How did the Christians go astray in regards to Tawheed Ibadah? They went astray in regards to Tawheed Ibadah because they worship three gods in a trinity. They worship three gods in a trinity. لَقَدْ كَفَرَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ ثَالِثُ ثَلَاثَةٍ. Verily, they are kuffar who claim Allah is a third of three deities in a trinity. Surah Ma'idah, verse 73. They went astray in regards to Tawheed Ibadah because they worship Jesus as God. Ma'idah 72, bring me in Ma'idah 72 first before Ma'idah 73. لَقَدْ كَفَرَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا Inna Allah wal Masih ibn Maryam. Verily there are kuffar who claim Jesus the son of Mary is Allah. Verily there are kuffar who claim Jesus the son of Mary is Allah. Ma'idah 72. Okay, how? I told you they went astray in regards to the 4 Tawheeds. So how did they go astray in regards to Tawheed Hakimiyyah? They went astray in regards to Tawheed Hakimiyyah because their priests and rabbis make what is haram halal and what is halal haram, and they follow them. So Allah said in Tawbah 31, اتَّخَذُوا أَحْبَارَهُمْ وَرُهْبَانَهُمْ أَرْبَابًا مِّن دُونِ اللَّهِ. They have taken their priests and rabbis as lords beside Allah. Surah 9 verse 31. When the Christian man was coming to the Prophet with a big cross around his neck, the Prophet read Tawbah 31. His name was Adi ibn Hatim. They have taken their priests and rabbis as lords beside Allah. The Christian man said, we don't worship our priests and rabbis. The Prophet said, don't they make haram halal and halal haram and you follow them? The man said, yes. The Prophet said, tilka ibadatuhum iyahum. This is how you worship them. He thought worship was only when you bow down to the statue of the Virgin Mary or the statue of Jesus in the Catholic Church. That's only one type of worship. What about when a person makes haram halal and halal haram and you follow him? That is also worship. And because of that, the Prophet read Tawbah 31. They have taken their priests and rabbis as lords beside Allah. The man admitted, yes. The Rasul said, Tilka ibadatuhum iyahum. This is how you worship them. The Christians make pork halal. Now, pork is haram, they make it halal. Their favorite meat in the West is ham. The Christians make polygamy haram, and polygamy is halal. They are hypocrites because in their book, Abraham had 2 wives and Jacob had 2 wives, or 4 wives. Solomon had 100 wives. So they are hypocrites. Every kafir is a hypocrite, and every hypocrite is a kafir. One of my friends in London took on a second wife. His first wife called the police. When the police came, they said, we are arresting you on suspicion of bigamy. He said to the police, I don't know what you're talking about. She's my girlfriend. The police said, if she's your girlfriend, then we have to de-arrest you. We can't touch you. Because you're allowed to have a girlfriend and a wife, but you can't have 2 wives. You see how evil the kuffar are? These are human devils. They make zina halal, but marriage haram. What are they? Human devils. They are evil to the core. Enough of ayah 46. Allah Ta'ala said, reason with them in a better way. Did you know that when Allah was sending Musa to the Pharaoh, He told Musa to be mild and gentle with the Pharaoh, even though the Pharaoh was the worst kafir to walk earth? The Pharaoh and Nimrod. Nimrod was the mentor of the Pharaoh. Both of them claimed divinity. Surah 20 verse 44. In Surah 20 verse 44, it tells you that when Allah was sending Musa to the Pharaoh, He said, وَقُولَا لَهُ قَوْلًا لَيِّنًا لَعَلَّهُ يَتَذَكَّرُ أَوْ يَخْشَى. And speak to him mildly, perhaps he may accept admonition or fear Allah. Can you believe it? Allah told Musa to speak to the Pharaoh mildly, in a mild manner. That is called etiquettes of dawah. Even though the Pharaoh was the worst kafir to walk earth, Allah still said, speak mildly to him. The Caliph Harun al-Rashid made a mistake when he was governing with Sharia. He made a mistake. A scholar of Islam corrected the Caliph, but he was harsh. The Caliph said, don't be so harsh with me. Not because I forgot something, don't be so harsh with me. Because I am not evil like the Pharaoh, and you are not better than Musa. And when Allah sent Musa to the Pharaoh, Allah said to Musa, speak to him with a mild manner, in a gentle manner. You were able to find the Subhanallah, you were able to find it so quickly. I got this from the lips of my sheikhs. Okay, let me see what you have. One day, an ascetic came to Harun al-Rashid and said, "O Harun, fear Allah." Harun al-Rashid withdrew with him and said, "O fellow, treat me fairly. Who is more evil, me or the fearer?" The ascetic replied, "Without doubt, the fearer is more evil." Harun al-Rashid continued, "Then who is better, you, yourself, or Musa?" He replied, "Without doubt, Musa is better." Harun al-Rashid said, "Are you not aware that when he sent Musa and his brother Harun to the Pharaoh, he said to them, 'Speak to him gently'? But you have harangued me with the most violent and unseemly words. Nor have you adopted the good qualities of the righteous ones." The ascetic replied, "I asked Allah for forgiveness." He replied, "God has already pardoned you," and ordered him to be given 20,000 dirhams. However, the ascetic refused to accept it. These are the right manners. Ibn Jawzi in Muntazam Dhakkar. Okay, shukran for bringing the Hujjah. I learned this from the lips of one of my sheikhs. I'm impressed you were able to find it so quickly. So Allah Ta'ala said, when you speak with the kuffar, when you debate with them in a manner which is better. And even the Pharaoh of Egypt, when Allah sent Moses to him, Allah said to Moses, "Speak to him in a mild manner. قَوْلًا لَيِّنًا, soft words, mild words, in case he reflects or fears Allah." And thus we have sent down the book, the Quran, to you, O Muhammad, and those whom we gave the scripture, the Torah, and the Injil, believe therein, as also do some of those who are present with you, people like Abdullah ibn Salam. And none but the disbelievers reject our ayahs, our proofs, and deny our oneness of lordship, and our oneness of worship, and our oneness of our names and qualities. Ayah 47. So Allah said, I revealed the description of Muhammad so vividly in the previous books, the Torah and the Injil. No one can deny the prophethood of Muhammad except a person who is extremely evil. Because I leave no stone unturned to describe Muhammad for the people. No one can reject the prophecy of Muhammad except the one who is extremely evil. Because I describe you, Muhammad, in their previous books, the Torah and the Injil, with no ambiguities, with no uncertain terms. And because of that, people like Abdullah ibn Salam embraced Islam, one of the most important rabbis in Medina. When Abdullah ibn Salam embraced Islam, the Prophet said to the Jews, "What do you think about Abdullah ibn Salam?" He kept his shahada a secret, a big, big secret. They said Abdullah ibn Salam is a scholar, and his father before him was a scholar, and they are the best of our people. They are the best of Jews. He is a scholar, and even his father was a scholar as well. Then Abdullah ibn Salam came out and said in front of the Jews, "Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah." He took shahada in front of the Jews again. The Jews said, No, he's a worthless, good for nothing. He's evil, and his father before was also evil. They quickly changed their tune. You see how evil the Jews are. A minute ago, you said he was the best. He's a scholar, and his father before was a scholar. When the Prophet said, "Come out in front of them, come out and declare your shahada," and he said, "Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah," they quickly changed their tune. "Oh, he's evil. He has mistakes in his character, he's evil. And even his father before was evil." They quickly changed their tune. And look how evil Jews can be. So Allah Ta'ala said, the description that I revealed in the previous books, the Torah and the Injil, about Muhammad is so clear, no one can deny these descriptions. So in Baqarah 146, Allah said, الَّذِينَ آتِينَهُمُ الْكِتَابِ يَعْرِفُونَهُ كَمَا يَعْرِفُونَ أَبْنَاءَهُم. In Baqarah 146, Allah said, those who were given the book, the Jews and the Christians, they know Muhammad and they can recognize Muhammad the way a father is able to recognize his own children. Why they can recognize Muhammad the way a father is able to recognize his own children? Because the description of Muhammad was revealed vividly in the Quran with absolutely no ambiguities. Ayah 48, neither did you, Muhammad, read any book before it, the Quran, nor did you write any book whatsoever with your right hand. In that case, indeed, the followers of falsehood might have doubted. So Allah is saying that you, Muhammad, you did not read any book before the Quran. The first book you read was the Quran. Because I kept you illiterate as a hujjah against the kuffar. Allah, I kept you, Muhammad, illiterate. You are the prophet who is illiterate, as a hujjah against the kuffar. Because if you were skillful in reading and writing, all the kuffar would say he wrote the Quran himself. But I kept you illiterate. You are the unlettered prophet, An-Nabi al-Ummi. Like Allah said, وَالَّذِي بَعَثَ فِي الْأُمِّيِّينَ رَسُولًا مِّنْهُمْ. Allah sent against the Ummiyin, the unlettered ones, Surah 62, verse 2. وَالَّذِي بَعَثَ فِي الْأُمِّيِّينَ رَسُولًا مِّنْهُمْ. Allah sent against the illiterate ones a prophet who is illiterate like themselves. يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِهِ وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ وَيُعَلِّمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةِ. Teaching them the book, the kitab and the hikmah, the sunnah. يُزَكِّيهِمْ, purifying them from kufr, shirk and zandaqa. Surah 62 verse 2. Surah 62 verse 2. So the Quran says Muhammad is Ummi, the unlettered prophet. Then Allah said in Surah Al-Ankabut, and you, Muhammad, you did not read any book before the Quran, neither did you write any book with your right hand. We kept you an illiterate prophet to use it as an argument against the kuffar who will say Muhammad wrote the Quran himself. That's why we kept you an Ummi, an illiterate prophet, to use it as a hujjah against the enemies of Islam who will say Muhammad wrote the Quran by himself. Nay, but they declare ayah, the description and the qualities of the Prophet Muhammad written in the Torah and the Injil are preserved in the breasts of those who have been given knowledge. Your description is preserved in the bosoms of those who were given knowledge among the people of the book. And none but the Zalimun deny our ayahs, our revelation, our signs. The Prophet had a Jewish wife, Safiya, and she became a very good Muslim. When the Jews speak about Safiya in their Jewish synagogue, they said the Prophet killed her husband and her father. So she had no choice but to embrace Islam. That's how they put a spin on events. When somebody said to Safiya, how did you manage to become such a good Muslim from Judaism? She said, I was brought up in the house of my grandfather and my uncle, and my grandfather was talking about Muhammad. I was eavesdropping and they did not know I was eavesdropping. Now what did these two evil men say? And Safiya heard them. They said, it is him. Muhammad is the real prophet that we were waiting for. All the description of Muhammad is in the Torah. It is him. But we can't follow him because he's an Arab. A'udhu Billah. Safiya said, from that day Iman entered my heart. My grandfather and uncle were talking about Muhammad. I was eavesdropping. In the UK they said I was earwigging. Earwigging, that's British English. I was earwigging, I was eavesdropping. And they did not realize I was eavesdropping. And they said, it is him. Muhammad is the real prophet that we were waiting for. He is the same Prophet mentioned in our holy book, the Torah. But we can't follow him because he is an Arab. A'udhu Billah. Look how evil Jews are. They know that Muhammad is the Prophet, like Allah told you in Baqarah 146. يَعْرِفُونَهُ كَمَا يَعْرِفُونَ أَبْنَاهُمْ. Yet they refuse to believe in Muhammad, and they choose the hellfire over paradise, all in the name of Asabiya, racism. That is a real racist. A person who turns his back on paradise and jumps into the hellfire with both legs, all in the name of Asabiya. That is a complete racist. The worst of racists is a Jew. So Abraham had the son Ishaq and he had Ismail. The Jews came from the lineage of Ishaq and the Arabs came from the lineage of Ismail. They were saying, we were hoping the Prophet will come from the lineage of Ishaq. But for our lineage. But for the Prophet to come from the lineage of Ismail, which is the Arab, our cousins, that's not acceptable. So in that case, we can't believe in Muhammad. That's racism. The Jews, they want to tell Allah who to bless. Can you believe it? Jews want to tell Allah who to bless. But Allah told you in Baqarah 105, وَاللَّهُ يَخْتَصُ بِرَحْمَتِهِ مَنْ يَشَاءُ. Allah knows where to send His blessings. Baqarah 105, وَاللَّهُ يَخْتَصُ بِرَحْمَتِهِ مَنْ يَشَاءُ. The Jews want to tell Allah who to bless. They think they know more than Allah. And to prove to you that Jews think they know more than Allah, they wrote a book called the Talmud. The elders of Zion wrote a book called the Talmud, and they said what we wrote from our Aql is better than what Allah revealed to Musa on Mount Sinai. What we the Jews wrote from our Aql, our brain, is better than what Allah revealed to Musa, is better than the Torah, better than the Torah which Allah revealed on Mount Sinai. So a Jew is a Mu'tazilite who prefers his Aql over the Naql. The Aql means the human brain, and the Naql is the text, reason and revelation. They prefer reason over revelation. The reason is the Aql, the revelation is the Naql. A Jew is a Mu'tazilite. Why? Because they said what we wrote from our brain, the Talmud, is better than what Allah revealed to Musa on Mount Sinai. Therefore, they prefer the Aql over the Naql. And they say, why are not signs sent down to him from his Lord? Say the signs are only with Allah and I am only a plain warner. Now, Ayah 50. They want signs to come down. Before I explain Ayah 50, there are some Christians who claim that Muhammad learned about Tawheed from a Christian monk called Buhaira. I forgot to tell you this. I beg your pardon. I forgot to tell you this. The admins have to doctor the notes to put this in. The Christians say when Muhammad was 12, he went on a trading trip with his uncle Abu Talib on his way to Syria. On his way to Syria, he passed by a Christian monk called Buhaira when he was 12 years old. Buhaira taught Muhammad Tawheed. So Buhaira is the father of Islam because this Christian monk taught Muhammad Tawheed, then he went back to Mecca to preach Tawheed to the Arabs. It was a Christian who taught Muhammad Tawheed. That's why he knows that it is wrong to worship Lat, Uzza, Hubal, Manat. This is what you will learn if you study Islam in Kafir universities. Now, we say to the Christians, you don't have Tawheed. You're a pagan. You ascribe partners unto Allah. You believe in Trinity, God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. So how can you give a thing to someone when you don't have it yourself? You're a pagan, you don't have Tawheed. So your argument is weak. And Allah made takfir on you, the Christians, in the Holy Quran. You believe Jesus is God. There is no difference between you, the Christians, and the Kafirs of Mecca, the pagans of Mecca, who worship Lat, Uzza, Hubal, Manat. Because you say Jesus is God. And Allah has made takfir on you in the Quran, Ma'idah 72, and Allah did not give you the excuse of ignorance. Allah said, لَقَدْ كَفَرَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ وَالْمَسِيحُ ابْنُ مَرْيَمَ. Verily they are kuffar who claim that Jesus, the son of Mary, is Allah. The reason why I bring this up is because you will hear it from Christians who claim that Muhammad learned about the oneness of Allah from a Christian monk called Buhaira on his way to Syria with his uncle Abu Talib. I beg your pardon, I forgot to mention that. Please put that in the notes. You have to doctor the notes and put that in. Ayah 50. And they say, why are not signs sent down from Allah? Where are the signs? Say to them, the signs are only with Allah and I am only a plain one. Now, what did Allah say about signs? Allah said in Surah 17 verse 59, I sent signs before and still the people didn't believe. And they say, why are not signs sent down to him from his Lord? But what did Allah say about signs? Surah 17 verse 59, Allah said, I sent down signs before and still the people did not believe. I give you an example. The people of Saleh, the people of Thamud, they approached him and said, if you are a real prophet, let a she-camel come out of this rock, and they pointed to a rock. Prophet Saleh said to them, what if I pray to Allah and a she-camel come out of the rock in front of your very eyes? Will you believe? They said, yes, we will believe. Prophet Saleh prayed and the camel came out of the rock, a she-camel. And the she-camel was heavily pregnant. What did they do? They went back on they broke their wallahi and they continued to be kuffar. So Prophet Saleh, before he prayed to Allah for the pregnant she-camel to come out of the rock, he said, if the camel should come out of the rock in front of you, will you believe? They said, yes. Prophet Saleh said, say wallahi. Take a pledge. And they were Arabs. These were Arab tribes. The people of Hud were Arabs from Yemen. The people of Saleh were Arabs from Saudi Arabia. Even today, their remains can be seen in Saudi Arabia. Northern KSA. KSA means the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Many of you don't know what it means. KSA, you know what is the meaning of USA, but you don't know the meaning of KSA. It means the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The people of Saleh came from KSA, the Northern KSA. Prophet Saleh said, if I pray to Allah and the camel come out of the rock, will you believe? They said, yes, we'll believe. He said, say wallahi. They said, wallahi. What happened? The camel came out of the rock and they broke their wallahi. They continued to be kuffar. They broke their wallahi. And what happened? They killed the she-camel of Allah. Prophet Saleh said, in 3 days you are going to die. I give you 3 days to live. Enjoy your honeymoon in kufr, shirk and zandaka, because after 3 days you are going to die from a natural disaster. When they heard that, they were trying to kill Saleh himself. 9 men left their homes to kill Saleh himself. 9 men left their homes to kill Saleh himself. They did not believe when the sign came, even though they said, wallahi, we'll believe. You are asking for a sign to come from Allah. But Allah said in Surah 17 verse 59, وَمَا مَنَعَنَا أَن نُرْسِلْ بِالْآيَاتِ إِلَّا أَن كَذَّبَ بِهَا الْأَوَّلُونَ. And nothing stopped us from sending the ayah, the signs, but that the people of old denied them. And we sent the she-camel to Thamud as a sign. But they wronged her. They killed her. They wronged her. So Allah said, you are putting pressure on Muhammad to come up with a sign, but we sent signs to those who came before and they did not believe in the signs. Because when the sign comes, if you reject the sign, your punishment will be heavier on Judgment Day. Don't you know that? If the sign comes and you do not believe in the sign, your punishment will be heavier on Judgment Day. But Muhammad did come with a sign. The Quran is the greatest sign. The Quran is the greatest miracle. And Muhammad did come with a sign. Surah 54. Surah 54, verse 1 to 2. اقتربت الساعة وانشق القمر وإن يروا آية يعرضوا ويقولوا سحر مستمر. Judgment Day has drawn near, and the moon was cleft asunder. And every time they see a sign from their Lord, they say, this is only magic. What did you say? The moon didn't split. Muhammad worked black magic on our eyes. So the sign that you were asking for, it did come. But Allah said, people before Muhammad, they asked for a sign, like the people of Salih. They even said, Wallahi, we'll believe if we see the camel come out of the rock. And when the sign came, still they disbelieve. So why are you asking for sign? You're not going to believe even if the sign comes. Did the moon split and you still continue to be a kafir? Abu Lahab and Abu Jahl, Utbah, Shayba, Umayyah. Didn't you die as a kafir, Abu Jahl, at the battle of Badr? You died at the battle of Badr to be in hellfire forever? But the sign did come. You saw the moon split. So why didn't you believe? Why are you asking for a sign? If the sign comes and you didn't believe, your chastisement shall be very, very painful on the day of judgment. Now, concerning the Quran, Allah Ta'ala has blessed the Ummah of Muhammad. We are the only Ummah which is the Ummah of Hafidh. There is no Hafidh of the Torah, there is no Hafidh of the Psalms, there is no Hafidh of the Injil. That doesn't exist. We are the Ummah of Hafidh. That's a barakah Allah blessed the Ummah of Muhammad with. And Allah said in Surah 54, verse 17, we have made the Quran easy for you to memorize. وَيَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ. Surah 54, verse 17. We have made the Quran easy for you to memorize. So we are the Ummah of Hafiz. Nobody is a Hafiz of the Psalms. Nobody is a Hafiz of the Torah. Nobody is a Hafiz of the Injil. Another special favor to this Ummah, we are the Ummah of Isnad. Isnad is an unbroken chain of transmitter that leads back to the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. There is no Hafiz of the Psalms, the Torah, the Injil. The Psalms to David, Torah to Moses, Injil to Jesus. The Psalms, the Torah, there is no such thing as a Hafiz of the Psalms, the Torah, the Injil. We are the Ummah of Hafiz. And we are the Ummah of Isnad, an unbroken chain of transmitters leading back to the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Why these kuffar, they always say to the prophets, bring the punishment now. They always say to the prophets, bring the punishment now. If you are speaking the truth, where is the punishment of Allah? Bring it now. Bring it on. Do you know why kuffar always speak like that? Where is the punishment? Bring it on. Even Bush speaks like that. You, the Mujahideen, bring it on. That's one of the famous statements of Bush. Bring it on. The Mujahideen bring it on, and then your kids go back home with no hands, no feet, and no private parts because of IED. What kind of a proud statement that? Bring it on. You can't say to the Ummah of Muhammad, bring it on. They can fight a jihad for 50 years. Can you stomach a war in Afghanistan for 50 years? You have the stomach for that? 50 years war? Your economy is going to be destroyed. What do you mean, bring it on? That's what Bush said. Bring it on. The kuffar, they always say to the prophets, bring it on. Where is the punishment of Allah? You know why they speak like that? Because man is impatient. Surah 70, 19 to 21. Surah 70, 19 to 21. Man is impatient. And because man is impatient, they always say to the prophets, bring it on. Where is the punishment of Allah? You keep promising us a punishment. How comes we haven't seen the punishment? Why are you hastening the punishment? Innal insan khulika halu'an. Verily, man was created very, 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 very impatient. Look at the ayah. Look at the ayah. Verily, man was created what? Very impatient. Irritable, discontented when evil touches him, and niggardly when good touches him. Ayah 21 and Ayah 22. Except those who devoted to Salah, to prayers. That is man. Irritable when evil touches him. Where is the other ayah? Niggardly. Where is Ayah 21? Where is Ayah 21? Bring me the ayah, please. Niggardly when good touches him. Where is Ayah 21? Oh, bring me the ayah again from the beginning. Please bring me the ayah. I want Surah 70, verse 19 to 22. Innal insana khulika halu'an. Verily, man was created very impatient. إِذَا مَسَّهُ الشَّرُّ جَزُوعًا. Irritable when evil touches him, and niggardly when good touches him. إِلَّا الْمُصَلِّينَ إِلَّا الْمُصَلِّينَ. Except those who are devoted in Salah. And because man was created very, very impatient, they always say, bring it on. They hasten the chastisement of Allah. Even the kuffar of today, they speak with the same tone of voice, bring it on. Why do you want to hasten the destruction of the USA empire? Why did you say bring it on, Bush? Why do you want to hasten the destruction of America? What do you mean bring it on? You the kuffar, why do you say bring it on? Why do you want to see Allah's chastisement? The people of Noah said the same thing to Noah. Bring it on. Look what happened to them. The flood came. The homosexuals of Sodom and Gomorrah said the same thing to Lut. Bring it on. Look what happened to them. The people of Salih said the same thing to Salih. Where is the chastisement? Bring it on. Look what happened to them. The people of Hud in Yemen said the same thing to Prophet Hud. They came 200 years before Salih. Bring it on. Look what happened to them. The kuffar will always say bring it on. Anyway, I stop here. I take 5 questions in regards to the tafsir you have heard. I hope tomorrow will be the last segment of this tafsir. Today's topic, Tafseer, Surah Al-Ankabut, the Ummah of Hafidh and Isnad. I understand Imam Shafi says it's halal to charge money to teach Quran. Do you know why Hanafi Madhab say it's haram? How do I answer this question to my friends? The correct opinion is the opinion of Imam Shafi, because Imam Shafi provided the hujjah. The hujjah is that the Prophet gave away a girl in marriage to a man. The man was penniless, and the dowry was for him to teach her what he memorized of the Holy Quran. That's the hujjah. The second hujjah is that when the Muslim brother, the Sahaba, recited the Quran, Surah Fatiha, over a man who was stung by a scorpion and he was going to die, he charged the man a sheep, and the Prophet said he did right. You can charge money to recite over people with your incantations, which is called ruqya. Assalamu alaikum. Shaykh, is it recommended to join demonstrations against oppression in Dar al-Harb, such as the massacre in Syria, to show support and concern for our brothers and sisters in Syria? The matter of demonstration is up to you, but the best demonstration is jihad fi sabilillah. Demonstrations is up to you. There's nothing in the Quran to say it is haram. It's up to you, but the best demonstration is jihad fi sabilillah. When I was locked up in Kenya by the Christians claiming that I am inciting people to go to Somalia, there was a huge demonstration and 5 people died, and many more demonstrations were planned all over Kenya, and shops were gutted cars were burnt up, shops were burnt down, banks were looted, and many more demonstrations were planned. So they had to get me out of Kenya by any means necessary with a chartered jet of $500,000 US. So demonstration is a matter of ijtihad, it's up to you. And this demonstration was planned by the sheikhs of Kenya after Salatul Jummah. It was planned during Salatul Jummah. They used the khutbah to plan the demonstration. It's a matter of ijtihad, it's up to you, but the best demonstration is jihad fi sabilillah. Should people discuss gossip about ulama of haq about things which they cannot verify? If they do, aren't they taking part in ifk slander, since they don't know for sure and they are promoting it by talking about it? Slander always asks for evidence, because the people who are munafiqeen, like Abdullah ibn Ubay, the munafiq of Medina, he tries to use ifk to disgrace the Prophet and to disgrace Aisha. By slandering Aisha, you disgrace the Prophet. They always ask for hujjah. And whenever you hear an ifk, do not encourage the slanderer and do not fan the flames of fitna. Always tell a person to fear Allah. Always remember to tell a person to fear Allah. People don't say ittaqillah to each other anymore. The Sahabas used to say ittaqillah to each other. When people hear of an ifk, a slander, they always dabble in it and spread the ifk and fan the flames of fitna. People who come to Pal Talk to spread slander in their private lives, they drink alcohol and commit zina. They drink alcohol and commit zina. The person who came to Pal Talk to spread ifk, a Turkish girl from America, she confessed she sleeps around with Jews. She confesses that she sleeps around with Jews. And she's unabashed. Then she went into a room called Oxymoron to promote her zina with Jews. And she was banned from the room. So be careful of people who like to spread ifk in their private life. They are very, very evil. They are extremely evil in their private life. That's why they come to Pal Talk to spread rumors. And people come to Pal Talk to backbite and to gossip. Some come to beg money, and some come to spread kufr, like the Saudi Salafis. They come to Pal Talk to spread kufr. Some come to backbite and slander, and some come to beg money. Some come to pick up girls so that they can take them to a hotel later. That's what I heard that happens in the room. People come to pick up girls to take to a hotel later. So, and some people come to Pal Talk to learn the Aqidah of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. You should be the one who comes to Pal Talk to learn the Aqidah of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah and not to spread ifk slander. Because the Prophet said the Muslim is the one in which the other Muslims are safe from his hands and his tongue. Al-Muslim man salama al-Muslimun min lisanihi wa yadi. The real Muslim is the one in which the other Muslims are safe from his lisan, his tongue, and his hands. Next question, please. Is it halal to practice and compete in combat sports? In which sports are haram? Boxing. There is no evidence to say you cannot compete, because the Sahabas used to do camel race, horse race, and so on and so forth. There is no evidence to say you cannot compete. What is haram is when it involves betting, gambling, with betting shops. That is haram. But Chris Eubanks tried to introduce boxing to the Arabs, but he didn't succeed because it's haram to punch in the face. Chris Eubanks, who took Shahada, said he wants to be the first to introduce boxing to Arabs, but he didn't take off because it's haram to punch in the face. Assalamu alaikum. Does a Muslim die a shahidi if he is killed by police in Dar Kufr? This sounds like Dar Harb rather than Dar Kufr. Rather than Dar Kufr, it sounds like Dar Harb. There is no doubt he dies as a shaheed because he died at the hands of the enemy. Was that the last question? There is no doubt he died as a shaheed because he died at the hands of the enemy. I live in the US, Dar Harb, and I'm currently going to university. I want to know your opinion. Is it permissible to lie to the kuffar in order to receive financial aid money from them to help pay for university? The kuffar in the USA, they hate me with a passion, and they are always on the lookout for me making statements like this, which is anti-US. Why don't you ask your local sheikh? Ask your local sheikh. It's more appropriate, because we can't afford for the room to be closed down. This is the room where people learn their correct aqidah. So ask your local sheikh. We don't want the room to be closed down. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.